Hi everybody, Creative Katie, Karen Burchill here. Welcome to an art journal tutorial. This one's part of the napkin series. So I am using up some leftover paint. This is navy paint that I mixed, and I had leftover paint, and I grabbed an old journal page from my repurposed recipe binder. And there's lots of texture on there, and I'm just brushing that on. Now I made this navy using dioxazine purple and phthalo green. It makes an absolutely, as you can see, lovely navy. So that was the beginning of this page. Now I decided to use this napkin. It is peacock feathers. It's a cocktail napkin, and it has 4 images. 2 are the same and the other 2 are the same. I watercut it with my fine liner brush. I did this some time ago, and I really like how the navy in the middle of the peacock feather matches the navy in the back. So I'm going to go with it. Now I chose this geonetting stencil from the Crafter's Workshop because it seemed to go with the middle of the peacock feather. And I'm using some turquoise paint on here, very much staying in the blue zone. Through that, getting kind of some all over pattern on here. Then I'm using bright aqua and doing the same. I just want a little bit of color, a little bit of interest in the background. And I like how the bright aqua is so bright. And I'm wishing I had used a little bit more to get a little bit brighter color. And I picked the colors that I chose from here from the colors that were on that peacock feather from the napkin. So I'm taking inspiration for the motif and everything from that napkin. I'm going to layer these 2 on here. But I'm noticing there's some gold or yellow oxide on here, and I want to introduce that into the background. So everything is reading together. So I take some gold paint, spread it on my glass mat, and I have a shelf liner, and just adding that little bit of bling, a little bit of that yellow from the feathers into the background. So totally loving this background. This background would be good for a lot of different focal images. But I'm going to use the napkin as a focal image. And napkins make great focal images, as you've seen me doing. Now, I'm a little concerned here when I decide to glue these napkins down because my background is so dark. I'm thinking that it may not go completely translucent, that we're going to be able to see it. And because of the way the feathers are, there's lots of white space. I was unable to cut those all out. Now I grabbed some sentiments from my short and sweet sentiment pack. It has exactly that, short sentiments, single words. These I printed out onto adhesive sticker paper, and I'll put a link to some that you can get in Amazon. And I love printing out on the sticker paper because now you just have peel and stick. And you can take whatever sentiments you have and print them out onto these papers and have the ease of peel and stick. Now these are sized perfect for this size journal page. You can combine them and have 2, 3, 5, as many words as you want. You can build up your own sentences. Now my page here is about 6 1/4 by 8 1/2. And I tell you that because so you can see how the sentiment works. And I like the idea of putting 3 sentiments on there, and it kind of follows the flow of the focal image, and it draws your eye down the page. So now that I have a rough idea of exactly my composition. I'm going to set those aside and work on gluing these feathers down. Now, instead of my fluid matte medium, I am using gel medium from the Crafter's Workshop that I have thinned down with water. And I just thinned a little bit of it and put it in an old container. And I'm putting that under and over just like you do with the fluid matte medium. And as expected, this is not going completely translucent because there's a lot of white areas in there in between. It's also a very dark background, so that is dulling the image. Now I want the eye of this peacock feather to really stay bright, so I'm taking a minute here just to paint some white gesso underneath it so that it stays brighter. I couldn't do that with the feather because then all the white parts would also stay very white. So this is a very somewhat complex napkin to use, but I'm going to show you exactly how you can make this work. So again, I'm painting the gesso underneath the eye of the peacock feather, giving that a quick dry, and then I'm going to glue it down. Be generous with your fluid matte medium or gel medium that's thinned down. Now all those white areas, I am taking the Prussian blue and I'm watering it down and rubbing it over those white areas just to knock back the white. I'm not trying to be overly precise. In fact, I get less and less precise as I go. I just want to get rid of that. Now, as you've seen me doing, if you've watched any of my napkin tutorials, I'm going to go over this focal image with paint and get a very painterly effect. I'm using the napkin image as a guide, but then I'm going to be painting on it. So now I'm just getting out some of the light aqua. I picked out some phthalo green, and I'm just using a liner brush and painting in the feather parts. I'm going over some of the napkin parts that are very dull. This is making it look very painterly. Now here I'm using a shorter liner brush. In a bit, I realize that to get more flow, I grabbed a liner brush that has a longer brush. Now I'm going in with gold, and it just suddenly it starts to pop. I'm not trying to go exactly just where the lines are in the napkin. I'm adding my own. And I'm going to be going back with the green, with the gold, with the blue, mixtures of that and the liner brush, just painting out the feathers. And this is where I finally go, yes, now it's working. I grabbed some hooker's green here because I thought that the phthalo green was just a little bit too turquoisey. It wasn't quite the right color. So I just keep adding colors and adding layers, and I'm going up on the top one and then the bottom one and adding more detail as I go. Sometimes the colors are blending and sometimes not. And the looser I got, the less precise, the nicer the look. And here I've switched to the longer brush, and I get a finer line. Here I'm adding some gold to the eye of the peacock feather. And you can see the difference between the bottom one and the top one that isn't done yet. So happy with the results. I'm going on. Now this is an art journal page, and I did it on the art journal page because there were certain things I wasn't sure how I was going to approach it and what was going to work. Now, if I was going to take this, because I have another napkin, I also have the two other images, and make a similar page, or if I wanted to do it on a canvas or canvas board or a wood panel, I now have figured out what works and I won't make those same mistakes. So that's one of the reasons I do things in an art journal page. It helps me figure out how to do something that I may want to be doing on a canvas. Added some metallic blue to the center. And now I'm putting my 3 words: reclaim, rebuild, restore. I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep them white, so I grabbed one that I had and a different word, and I painted it gold. I gave it a wash of gold just to see how it would look, which I really prefer. Now there's no white in the background. And so in the end, I decided to go with the ones that have the gold wash. In the end, that's what I do. Here I'm peeling and sticking them down. I decided that I didn't like where that one was positioned, so I'm trying to get it up. So at this minute, I was thinking, maybe white's okay. I do end up painting it gold. So if you change your mind, you can. Here I'm grabbing my General's charcoal pencil. This is the extra soft one, and this is the best for smudging. I love the General's charcoal. It's a really dark charcoal. It smudges so easily, and I'm edging it. And I'm loving how that just frames the picture, works well with the black that's on the sentiment. And then I'm adding a little bit of shading with it on the peacock feather itself. And here's where I change my mind and decide to do the gold. So if you do change your mind, it's never too late. I mean, it would have been easier to do before I stuck it down, but it's not impossible to do afterwards. So I sharpened the medium of the General's charcoal. This doesn't flake as much, it doesn't smudge as much, and I'm just adding a little bit of lines detailing on the feathers. And I'm not smudging it, and that's why I've chosen the medium. It's harder, but you still get that black. I'm trying to add a little bit of line work in there. And now I grabbed the extra soft one, and I'm shading around the sentiments. Really happy with how this page ended up. Wasn't sure I could get it to where I wanted it to go, but I am. So one stencil, one napkin, and some leftover paint. Speaking of leftover paint, well, I have leftover paint again. So I grabbed a couple coffee filters and I'm spraying them down, and I'm using the makeup sponge, and I'm just adding that color to the coffee filters. I love the look that this gives, this watered down look on the coffee filter. It gets all crinkly and it decoupages down so well. I love using this as collage papers. And here I'm just taking and using some of the gold and stenciling, using whatever stencils I have available. So these do tend to be some of my favorite collage papers. So this one has navy, green, and gold. I still have some more, so I'm just getting it. The secret here is wet that coffee filter down. And I'm just using up every little last bit of the paint and adding some color. I have the green. I like that green and blue work together. So I'm adding that. Then I realize I have some white gesso there. So I grab that. So don't waste your paints. Use them. Have a stash of coffee filters. And then this will be added into my blue file folder of collage papers. Here's close-ups of the finished art journal page. I hope you give it a try. Follow me on Instagram at Creative Katie. Leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up. And as always, get creative.